This is Real News Media TV, coverage you can trust. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates. St. James councillors want a tougher legislation to tackle criminality in the parish. The need for stronger legislation to loosen the grip of criminals on St. James was discussed extensively at Thursday's monthly meeting at the Municipal Corporation. It was held as the police were searching for 9-year-old Gabriel King, who was murdered after his mother's vehicle was carjacked. Lamenting the spate of murders since the start of the year, Michael Troop, a councillor of the Granville Division, said a strategy is needed to deal with crime in the parish.
Granville don't wake up yet, but it starts by Mr. Chairman and it coming like a flu. It coming like the flu. Once one division catch it, all the division catch it.
It's contagious.
Very much, sir. So, Mayor, I think as the person in charge of the parish, you need to call a forum as quick as possible with all the stakeholders in St. James, the Chamber of Commerce, the councillors, the police, everybody. Let us sit down for a day, drink some coffee, and come up with a strategy how we are going to keep the crime in St. James at a manageable state.
The mayor and the chairman of the St. James Municipal Corporation, Leroy Williams, said every effort must be made this year to implement new legislation which the government has said will have more punitive measures for gun crimes.
It is time the legislation that seeks to create severe penalties for traders of illegal firearms and ammunition, as well as persons with illegal possession of firearms, to be promulgated and implemented. I am therefore calling on the government to expedite this process so that the murder by guns can be curtailed.
Police seized several firearms in Jarrett Lane area. A major police operation has netted 9 firearms in the Jarrett Lane area of Mountain View Avenue in Kingston yesterday evening. The Constabulary Communication Unit confirmed that a major operation was underway in Jarrett Lane and adjoining areas of Mountain View Avenue. The police have recovered 9 firearms. The operation is still ongoing with concentration on Jarrett Lane, and all reports are preliminary in nature so far, a representative of CCU told the news. Members of the Counter-Terrorism and Organized Crime Investigations Branch conducted the raid. UHWI under pressure with COVID-19 patients. The University Hospital of the West Indies is reeling under pressure, with its administration warning patients to expect delays due to the high number of COVID-19 infections and hospitalization. A notice from the hospital says its COVID-19 areas within the Emergency Medicine Division, including the field hospital, are at capacity, and 10% of the medical staff are out due to the virus. Earlier this week, the Medical Association of Jamaica said the number of healthcare workers in Jamaica testing positive for COVID-19 or in quarantine is now at a crisis level, and a consideration should be given to implementing emergency measures at public hospitals. MAJ President Dr. Brian James told the news that it might become necessary to scale back non-emergency services as the number of workers affected by the virus is rising. Since late last month, there have been reports of nurses and doctors becoming ill with the virus. At the same time, the hospital is appealing to persons who have recovered from COVID-19 to donate convalescent plasma to help treat patients with the virus. Interested persons can call 876-828-0933. Opposition Senator questions the Prime Minister's approach amid a surge in COVID-19 cases. Opposition Senator Donna Scott Motley has expressed a concern about the Prime Minister's attitude to the current surge in COVID-19 cases. Speaking in the Senate on Friday, Mrs. Scott Motley noted that the government had been proactive in the early stages of the pandemic. But with the country now going through a surge in cases and the Prime Minister stressing personal responsibility and vaccination, She argued that this approach cannot be enough, considering many vaccinated people are also getting infected. Mrs. Motley questioned the Prime Minister's policy that only a certain number of hospital beds will be allocated to COVID-19 patients.
So vaccination, as we well knew from the start, was not a guarantee you would not get sick. What we hoped and still hope is that when you get sick, it is mild. But I have to ask myself the question, when I'm told by the Prime Minister there's a certain amount of beds allocated for COVID, and after that, so suppose a health worker, a doctor, a police officer, a mother, a father, a son, vaccinated, they're seriously ill. How do you determine then whether or not you need to make a bed not dedicated to COVID-19 available to them? Prime Minister, I want you to rethink some of the things that you are saying. I really think that when you said that, what you did was throw up your hands in the air and abdicated your responsibility as Prime Minister.
Good citizens hiring contractor killers to settle domestic disputes, says the Security Minister. Security Minister Dr. Harris Chang is expressing concern over the growing trend of contractor killings emerging across the island. It is an unfortunate trend that we are seeing emerging, the Security Minister bemoaned. He added that the occurrence is becoming so widespread that even good citizens are now hiring killers to settle domestic disputes. I am concerned by the growing use of violence by even some of whom may be considered non-traditional criminals to kill people, Dr. Chang said. But he noted that although contractor killings are difficult to police, strides are being made to bring the perpetrators of these heinous crimes to justice. When you see these kinds of things happening, it is very worrying, but the government recognizes it, and the police have taken steps to train their men, orient their intelligence activity, and do the required work to identify and find the killers, those who organize the killings, those who manage the killers, and the killers themselves to get them off the road, he said. Speaking at a public forum hosted by the Ministry of National Security inside the auditorium of Manning's High School Thursday night, Dr. Chang argued that the killing of 2 women at a business place in White House, Westmoreland on Wednesday had the characteristic of a hit. The deceased have been identified as 45-year-old Sophia Brown and 63-year-old Bernie Lewis, both of Long Hill in White House, Westmoreland. According to the Corporate Communications Unit, the communication arm of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, about 2:10 p.m. on Wednesday, Brown and Lewis were at a business place when 2 men entered posing as customers. A few moments later, the men pulled firearms and shot the women. They were taken to the hospital where they both were pronounced dead. I can say it openly, if you see gunmen walk into a shop, kill 2 women, steal nothing, it has to be a hired killer. Criminals going to look money, they rob and take something. If they go for a gun, they go take the gun, he stated. Contractor killings have been a major concern to the police over several years as people hire gunmen to kill spouses, relatives, and the people with whom they have disputes. Opposition spokesperson concerned about the placement of environment portfolio in Economic Growth Ministry. Opposition spokesperson on Land, Environment and Climate Change, Senator Sophia Fraser-Binns, says the placement of the Environment and the Climate Change portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation is troubling and conflicting. The change follows the shuffling of the cabinet on Monday. Describing the decision as a short-sighted, Mrs. Fraser-Binns suggested that the government establish a specific ministry for the portfolio. She believes that putting the environment portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth is a retrograde step given developments over the years. KSAMC restricts building in areas prone to landslides. The Kingston and the St. Andrew Municipal Corporation is restricting building in several areas following a study highlighting communities which are considered to be highly susceptible to landslides. The investigation followed the 2020 tragedy in which a father and a daughter died when a landslide swept their house down a slope in Shooters Hill. A cease and desist order on building in the area was announced last year. On Friday, Mayor of Kingston Senator Delroy Williams said landslide susceptibility mapping has been done for the rest of the Kingston metropolitan area.
This indicates a number of areas with a high probability of failure, provided there are triggers from heavy rainfall and/or earthquake. Maps, imagery, and databases created as part of this project area are available to the KSAMC for use. Land zonation and development of areas need to take into consideration the susceptibility to slope failure. Mr. President, this is the position of the KSAMC. Further development is restricted in these areas. Where developments are deemed important, detailed geotechnical investigation needs to be undertaken before stabilization measures implemented on and around the proposed development, residual risk analysis undertaken to ensure it is not transferred to adjacent areas, adhering to building codes, particularly the design of foundations and structures resistant to movement.
Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates.